how do you take a passion of yours outside of real estate and really explore it in order to actually help grow your real estate practice? We're going to talk about that today. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, on to our show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with top producer and tech guru Brandon Doyle. But before we get to Brandon, just a quick reminder for everyone who is new to the show, thank you for coming here. We appreciate it. Hopefully somebody turned you on to our podcast or you found it on your own. What we do here is talk to top 1% producers like Brandon and say, how did you do that? And hopefully you will get some great information on all of our episodes. I know you will today because I already talked to Brandon and he's amazing. So wait until you get to this episode, but please help continue the love and tell other agents about us. It's the best way that you can support us. Also, please check out our sponsors. Our sponsors are amazing and they have great services and products to help you grow your business. And last, leave us a review on iTunes, or actually now it's called Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, anywhere you're listening to this podcast. Let us know what you think of the show. We appreciate it. And let's just get to it. My conversation with Brandon Doyle. Today on the show, my guest is Brandon Doyle from the Doyle real estate team with Remax Results in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let me tell you more about Brandon. This is Brandon. I'm so excited to have Brandon on because this is really right up my alley, and he is an expert in the things that I'm interested in. But let me tell you more about him. So Brandon Doyle has a bachelor's of science from St. Cloud State University, which was a real estate major. He also has a master of science real estate degree from the University of St. Thomas. Now, he previously served on the Minnesota Realtor Board of Directors as an appointee for several years, and he is a past president of the St. Cloud State Real Estate Alumni Association. Brandon has been nominated as Inman's Innovative Realtor of the Year 2014. He's been featured in many magazines and newspapers, really talking about the cutting edge of technology in the real estate industry. Brandon is also listed on Inman News as one of the most influential people in real estate for 2017 and is recognized as a rising young professional by Finance and Commerce in 2020. And I left out about 20 other things that he has accomplished. But in the interest of time, I want to bring him on. Brandon Doyle is our guest. And I want everybody to check out his YouTube channel, which is DIY Smart. Brandon, I'm so sorry. DIY Smart.
Yeah, so we have a podcast, and the podcast is on DIY Smart Home Guy. But I also have my own channel as well, which is just Brandon Doyle MN.
Got it.
I actually have several channels, but those are the two big ones where you can find me if you're interested in smart home technology.
Awesome. And DIY Smart Home Guy is where you find that on YouTube. I will have a link to that. He has a healthy subscriber base there. He's got really well-produced videos. Check it out. We'll have a link directly to that in the show notes. And if you're somebody that's looking for a realtor in the Minneapolis area, Doyle Real Estate Team is the team to go with. And we'll have a link to their website as well. We'll have a link to all of Brandon's socials on our in the show notes. So Brandon, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm a little intimidated, I have to be honest, because I rarely get to talk to. I talk to a lot of top 1% producers all over the country. That part doesn't intimidate me, but the fact that you are really, really, tied in to technology is really exciting for me. I'm so glad that we were able to connect, because this is a conversation that I would love to have had all throughout the years of doing this show, and I really haven't. So I'm excited to have it with you. But I'd love to tell our audience a little bit more about how you got started. I know you work on a team with your father, which is awesome. So I know that that's part of the story. But you really were in real estate, all the way back into college. You knew that was kind of a path for you. So I'd love to find out, how did you decide to go into real estate, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, this might sound a little cliche, but growing up, I was destined not to do real estate because,
Right.
my dad was working the nights and weekends and missing sporting events, and I was like,
Sure.
I would never do that. Then fast forward, here I am on a team with him. But I did go to college for real estate, so I have a bachelor's degree. It's more of commercial real estate focus, and then I did go back and get my master's as well, also in real estate. So 2 degrees that absolutely do nothing in the world of residential sales, but really good for networking and understanding things beyond just the day to day. So yeah.
Yeah, and when you got started, did you immediately start with your dad, or did you start on your own and you guys came together later?
Yeah, I was doing a little bit on my own, but mostly we worked together. It's kind of a good fit just because he's got that old school mentality, and I come with new ideas as far as marketing and technology go, and so I've really been able to implement a lot of really cool things into our business that I've found by going to conferences or networking with agents online.
Awesome. I love that. And I think we should just dive right in. Tell me about DIY Smart Home Guy, the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I actually have been writing for Realtor Magazine for I think 8 years now. The last five or so have been really focused on smart home technology, and so through that, I've been able to test just hundreds of products. I've got them just piled up all around me here. So companies send them to me, I test them out. But through that, I've made some friends. I have my own YouTube channel as well, where I do like tours of homes, and I've done like some comparison stuff. But this channel is actually run by a friend of mine, and then we have a podcast together, so we like collaborate on a bunch of stuff. But we did get a sponsor recently, so the sponsor is in the smart home space and is like giving us funds to hire a producer and really
Yeah.
take it to the next level. So that's just been a side passion of mine.
Yeah, well, this podcast has kind of a similar, not a similar sort of trajectory, where I was doing it on my own, and then we eventually got sponsors a couple of years in, and it was like, oh, cool, maybe it could
Nice.
pay for itself, and
that's
here
that's
we are.
good.
It's good, and it also allows me to continue to be creative. Like, you're allowed to obviously be creative on your channel, and it's nice that you're providing a lot of value too. Tell me about it. So what is exciting you right now in the smart home space? What are you sort of geeking out about, so to speak?
Yeah, quite a few things. So, lawnmowers, the robotic lawnmowers has been a big trend. I've
Yeah.
got three of them that we're testing right now. I think it's got a ways to go, but there's some potential there. And then different styles of voice assistants. So everyone's familiar with Google, Siri, Alexa. I got to be careful because there's so many of them around. I
They
don't want
all
them
get
to trigger.
activated.
But I've actually been working with a company called Josh AI, and so it's
Mm,
very privacy focused, and the data stays within your home. It
mm.
works with all sorts of things, and so that's been pretty cool. So to get in on the ground floor on some of these new technologies is pretty interesting, and then to have direct contacts and kind of honestly shape where the future of smart home technology goes, because through these conversations we're able to give feedback, and some of the manufacturers are actually listening, and that's fun for me to be able to see them iterate on products and then come
Yeah.
back with a new generation that addresses a problem that we discovered.
Well, that's true, because engineers or developers may not be the end user of the product, so they rely on people like you who spread the word and say, "Hey, I'm into this. Here's how it practically sort of works or
Mhm.
doesn't work." and you can actually help the product's life cycle by providing suggestions to the developer roadmap, and say, hey, if we just did this or that. That is a really cool place to be. You get to try all the newest stuff. I'm curious if we relate this back to your real estate practice. Do you incorporate smart home or any technology into when you're listing a property, for example? Like, I'd love to know what systems you're sort of not getting it listed, but just sort of what you're doing to the home to sort of prep it, because I imagine
Mhm.
smart home is a big thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, smart homes are really a driver for the buyers, but then for sellers too, like having a doorbell, a video doorbell is nice to know who's there and
Sure.
if they've gone and stuff. But yeah, I don't know that we are doing anything like to add to the listings. I just tend to attract more technological focused people because they see my content that I'm doing. And so the other nerds, geeks and stuff, they reach out and some of those guys are doing pretty well for themselves. And so get some pick up some
Yeah.
nice listings that way.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that's a really interesting point. So your YouTube channel, which has over 30,000 subscribers, that is not a. I mean, it's a small number in compared to Mr. Beast, but we're not trying to be Mr. Beast. But for a realtor and for somebody doing a side passion, that is an super impressive number. Congratulations on that. You have almost 200 videos up there, and you would have a subscription part as well. So I love all of that. I'd love to know a little. So what I thought was interesting is you have this YouTube channel and you get to explore your passion, and you get sent products and get to review them and provide feedback and tell the world about them. And you mentioned, oh, and I also sometimes get business as a result from this. So can you talk a little bit about how that happens? Because, when I look at your YouTube channel, I don't see Remax. I don't see I'm a realtor. Hey, this isn't I do this other thing too. It's just a DIY smart home sort of channel.
Mhm.
So how does that translate into business for you?
Yeah, so there's actually three different channels here. So the DIY Smart Home guy is a collaboration with a friend, and that he does like videos on there, and then we do a podcast together. And then I've got my primary channel, Brandon Doyle MN, and that's got a lot of like tours, and I'll highlight the technology there. And then my third channel is more real estate branded, and that's around new construction and neighborhood tours. So walking through and just kind of highlighting different things. But really, all of it positions me as an expert. And then you can also take all that content, which I imagine you do with this as well, and create more micro content. And so then we can drip that out on the other channels, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. And so really just as much content as you can possibly put out there that positions you as an expert and keeps you in front of people and top of mind is going to result in more business. And with the smart home tech, it's related to the home too. So
Well,
it
I love
works.
and I know you have channels that do more real estate focused stuff, as you mentioned. I love the DIY smart home. I keep going back to that because you're right. There's always new products coming out. There's always new videos to make, and you've immersed yourself in that community, and you're sort of somebody that gets sent these products, and so there's always fun, cool stuff to try out, which I think must be a lot of fun. And you're creating content around it, which is also fun and also hard work, and then the ability to repurpose that content, or rather to chop up that content into bite-sized pieces, as Brandon was mentioning. We have a lot of realtors who listen to our show who do video content on social. Maybe they're answering questions or talking about a particular topic, and that's it. They don't think to maybe chop it up. And I'm curious how you found the engagement on the short form video side. And when we say short form video, we'll say 30 seconds or less, maybe 60 seconds or less, and then longer form video could be minutes and minutes. How do you find that people are best sorry, let me ask a different question. Do you find that consumers who you may want to work with as a realtor, are they more drawn to the short form content, the long form content? Is it kind of anything and everything?
Yeah. So you need to do it all. So the short form content is great because it allows you to stay top of mind. You can really pump that out. I mean, it's also really good for discovery. So it goes over all these different channels. And when I first started doing stuff on YouTube, I later was sharing it on Facebook and other places, and people thought that I had just created that. And what I realized is that while people might be on all those platforms, they don't use them every day.
Right.
And so they might have one that's a preference. And I can take that same content and put it on Instagram, and it's like a whole different audience, and they engage in it in a different way. And so you kind of need to be segmenting it and then respecting that audience. But the short form stuff really is what draws them in. It kind of triggers them. And then the long form stuff is where you can just demonstrate your expertise. And so with long form, I really focus on search. So with like new construction, I'll go deep about the neighborhoods and the communities in our area, and people that are searching those, they're very high intent. So those videos aren't going to get as much views, but like the type of person that's watching them is very serious about moving in this area, and they want an expert. And so this is a way where I can demonstrate my expertise, and it's working 24/7 for me.
So I'd love to sort of break this down a little bit. So in order for you to first determine what the content of one of these videos is, and you mentioned sort of going after a very specific question that I thought I heard the word long or long tail,
Mhm.
meaning what that means is, you're looking for somebody that's, basically typing out a full sentence with a question specific to, real estate in Minneapolis. And not just doing hey, moving to Minneapolis, here's what you need to know. And that's okay too. That would just be more difficult to probably rank for, because that's a more
Mhm.
general thing. So are you going really hyper local and you're getting really granular and saying the best restaurants on this, this part of the town, that, or the best, whatever?
Yeah, there's certainly people that are able to do that, like with restaurants. I really focus on new construction and then neighborhoods and then also schools. So, like where I'm at in Maple Grove, we're on the border of two different school districts. And the one, obviously, well, I guess not obviously, but for those moving here, they'll find out that the Wayzata schools is the better of the two. And so I know that people are going to be searching for Maple Grove home Wayzata schools. And so by going for that longer tail, I'm going to get more of a serious buyer versus somebody that's just like Maple Grove home for sale. So
Now,
yes.
so exactly. So you're basically taking questions that your clients have asked you or you suspect would ask you. For example, hey, we're on the there's two school districts, and you probably would want to know before searching for homes which one you want your children to go to, which of course every parent does.
Mhm.
So that's actually brilliant in the sense of, well, it's brilliant in the sense of you're literally providing value to people who want that exact answer. And there's probably not a ton of competition around that, I suspect, as well.
Yeah. I've been telling people about this for 8 years, and
No one's doing it.
no one's doing it. They're not doing the work, but it's pretty straightforward stuff. Google is the number 2 search engine. You search for something like that, it's going to come up. Video creates authority. I mean, I'm getting 5 times return on investment on video content that I create, and
Wow.
that's including the cost of having someone actually follow me around with the video camera and the hiring, the editing. Like I don't do any of that myself, so
Wow.
it's definitely worthwhile. You just got to commit to it. It's a consistency thing. You can't do like 3 videos and expect to get results. It's like you do 50 videos and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the phone's ringing.
Yeah, and those videos, if the content's evergreen or sort of always in favor or always going to answer the question that person has, that should, in theory, stay right at the top of the search results
Mhm.
until maybe something better knocks it out. But then you would know that, and then you could always come back and
Yeah, you
remake
just do
that
a new
video.
version of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's amazing. So what we're really talking about is answering questions. And again, the funny thing about what Brandon's saying is he's not looking for hundreds of thousands of views. I mean, that would be awesome, I'm sure, or maybe it wouldn't. I don't even know if it would be awesome. But he's looking for people that want the answer to that specific question, which is maybe not a wide audience, but that means less competition, less people are making videos about that because they don't know about it. Are curious, are you using any tools to find the questions that you're answering, or are you just going through, hey, I'm a realtor, I get asked stuff all the time, those are my ideas?
Yeah, so it's a mixture, right? So I know the type of questions and scenarios that we're going to encounter a lot, and specifically around new construction because people don't tend to build new homes every year. So maybe it's once every 10 years, but having that experience and having gone through it, I know what things that they're going to ask. And so I can create content there, but also you can use any tool like ChatGPT or something, and just kind of prompt it and say, well, what questions do people have? Or you could also look at like other markets too. Like, oh, hey, this person in Arizona did really well with this. This got a lot of traction for them. I could do something similar for my area, highlighting similar things.
Yeah, it's a great answer. I wanted to ask you about ChatGPT because I am curious. Pretty much we're all using it in some capacity, I think. How are you using it? I want to know how you use it and what it's doing for your business.
Yeah, so it's really good for repurposing content. I can take like a transcript from, let's say, this podcast and then run it through there. It'll give me a summary. I can use that as a blog post, or I can use that for social. That way, when I'm sharing content and chopping it up in different ways, I'm being respectful of each platform. It's not like a copy and paste. It's like, okay, well, let's optimize this for Instagram. And I know
Ah,
Instagram's all about imagery. So let's use emojis, less text. But if I'm going over to LinkedIn, it's more professional. I might just use one photo, but it might be more lengthy text, but it's almost a different style of voice. And so with ChatGPT or other tools similar to that, you can kind of change it. Same with headlines. You can A/B test things, and it's good for ideas. What it's not good for is people that just say, "Hey, write me an article about XYZ."
right,
You're just garbage in, garbage out. Like it doesn't have the expertise like you do, and people
right.
are looking for stories. They're looking for insights that they can't get elsewhere. And so if the AI bot can just look it up themselves, then why would the consumer need you? But you can take that knowledge you have and you can kind of word bomb it on any AI system, and then like just say, hey, like this is my audience. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's work together on this and kind of massage it. So I think if you look at it as a partnership, then it can be a great tool. But if you're just trying to rely on it as a shortcut or
Yeah.
an automation, then it's not good and it's a terrible experience for the consumer. And I think you're actually doing worse than you are good.
Could not agree with you more. I found it's such a simple idea, but I'm, I do a tip of the week email from tips from these top producers that I've chatted with on the podcast over the years, and one of them was a ChatGPT tip, and something I don't practice real estate myself, so easy for me not to have thought of this. But a really good idea is, and I was testing this yesterday, as one of my guests was telling me that on his way to a showing, and if he's not as familiar with the area or the neighborhood or what's surrounding or the schools or anything that's sort of noteworthy or fun to talk about or interesting, he throws the address into ChatGPT and says, find everything you know about the area. And he gets really specific. I want to know about restaurants. I want to know about schools. And it's this big, long prompt. It's probably 10 sentences or more. And, he kind of copies and pastes it. He doesn't rewrite it each time. And it just, it will return all sorts of interesting facts. And so this way, when he shows up at a showing, he's got tons of information now that he can kind of throw out there throughout the showing. Say, hey, by the way, did you know there's a park just 2 blocks away? And he might not have known that. So I found that to be
Yep.
like, that's a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah, ChatGPT is a good bullshitter, like
I knew this all along, but you're absolutely right. It's great for stuff like that. And anyway, I love that. So I want to talk about now you running your real estate practice with your father. I want to know what systems have been helpful for you guys in running your business.
yeah, sure. So obviously you want to start with a good CRM, right? Like we were very early in Contactually, which I absolutely
Sure.
loved. I loved the scoring system, the database health, the rules. Like there's so much about it that was awesome. I actually worked for a real estate tech company for a while afterwards, and I was like, just like make that. Nobody's really gotten quite close, but like currently we use Follow Up Boss for our CRM.
Oh yeah.
One of the reasons is it tracks both our email and like phone stuff. So for me, that's helpful. And then we have transparency across the team members, so I can see like, oh yeah, that already was done. I don't have to check in. So that's kind of nice. Then I've used like every tool under the sun, honestly, for tech. It just seems like there's a whole lot of the same. Like I like Cloud CMA. There was a company called First.io. I love that, but then Remax bought it and eventually shelved it. So that was disappointing. But they did really good predictive analytics. So yeah, I don't know.
Are
I've
you
tested so much over the years. It kind of all runs together, honestly.
how important do you think as an agent knowing the important life events as they because I do think that's going to be something that AI or just the ability to ping different databases here in as the future unfolds. I feel like that's going to be a really neat thing where AI is going to again, hey, this person we noticed on LinkedIn that this person has just got a promotion at work or just celebrated work anniversary. So instead of going to LinkedIn every day and going through to see who, oh, I could call so and so and congratulate them, life event stuff, it would be nice if that could be sort of delivered to us.
Yeah, and just like run into your CRMs that when you're making your
Yeah.
calls, it's just right there. Like, here's some talking points. Like, this is what's going on in the world. Things you could bring up that are hopefully are accurate.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, that
starting
would be huge.
I'm
Whatever
starting
company
to
nails that.
see little drips of this kind of idea, and that to me is quite exciting. To be
Yeah.
able to, I'm waiting for the day that again that the AI sort of is instructing me on do this, do this, do this, and then I don't have to focus too much on planning. Let's talk about sort of the client experience. Do you incorporate any technology worth mentioning into the client experience to ensure that the client has a good time throughout the sales cycle?
Yeah, so on the listing side, it's all about really good marketing up front, and so using 360 technology, using the floor plans, using professional photography, frankly, aerial, all that. I mean, I feel like almost everybody's doing that now. If they aren't, they should. So that's pretty straightforward. I think e-signatures are huge. Like I can't imagine not having that. And then some sort of for showings, having some sort of solution where they can see and like engage with it. What there's a lot of options out there, but just embracing one of them, that's pretty helpful. But right now we're trying out Raise. So it's a new product, and it's kind of just tracks all your activities and does this real time reporting with the client. And I really like the vision of where they're going. Obviously, it's very early in their rollout, so to be
Is
determined what comes true or not. But
Now, is the idea to be able to more easily defend commission by saying, "Here's all the stuff I do for you"? I'm just guessing
yeah,
at the
that's kind of
okay.
their thing. But yeah, it's kind of showing them behind the curtain, like, oh, hey, here's what Brandon did today. This how many miles driven. Here's how many calls and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty neat.
That
Within
is a great idea for a product. I mean, I think it's a great idea. It seems like a
Yeah.
great idea. I
Well, they
love
raised a
that.
lot of money to build the product, so I guess enough people think it's a good idea. But
Yeah. No,
I think the biggest opportunity, honestly, in real estate right now is deduplication of data and data augmentation. So a lot of agents I talk to have a CRM system, but then I ask them like, okay, well, how many of them have completed addresses? Okay, half of them. How many of them have phone numbers? 75%. How many have emails? Probably higher, like 80, 90%. But how do we fill in that missing information? How do we make sure it's accurate? And then the other big gap is that, like, I did something in one place, but now I'm in a different area and the data doesn't jive. We don't have a single source of truth in real estate. I think if we could get to that point, agents are going to become much more productive because we spend so much time just entering the same information in twice, and it's not a good workflow.
I use two different CRMs. Well, not
Serious?
intentionally, but because one of them does something very specific that cannot be duplicated by the other or cannot be replicated by the other, sadly, yet.
Well, tell me more.
Well,
Which one is it and what is
so
it doing?
yeah, so I'm talking about Corded.io. They're a
Okay.
really interesting product. I love these guys. So basically, I'm a recruiter for realtors. So I live and die by data. I want to know, for example, if I was trying to recruit you, I would want to know, and again, this kind of goes back to this idea of life events. So in my world, a life event is Brandon just got a $2 million listing, and I want to be the first person to congratulate him on that listing, because maybe, down the road he might not want to be at Remax anymore. And he's like, hey, DJ, you've been checking out you've been following me and demonstrating that you care enough to check what I'm doing.
It
Maybe
was
I would
only
need
950,000, but thank you. I'm really excited about it. I hope we get it sold.
yeah. So this is the kind of cool stuff, like Corded will do this, where you could say, here's all the agents that I want to track, and they also have predictive analytics to determine what they believe is people who are likely to move offices, which is good for two reasons. One, obviously good to recruit, also good for retention. And it's not just based on production. It's not just, well, whoever's production's going down is probably likely to move. And yeah, that's might be true, but they have a whole bunch of other factors that are weighed in. And it's the best piece of tech I have seen for my world, which is the recruiting world. And there really was no tech before. There was a few other systems that try to do it, but Corded is the most impressive. And they are rolling out CRM features. So they're tied into all the MLSs. That's the part that can't easily shoot over into, I use Zoho for my other CRM.
Okay.
So yeah,
but like a broker metrics on steroids with some AI mixed in.
Broker metrics on steroids, which, to the guys over at Broker Metrics or Lone Wolf now, time to update that product. I know they are updating it.
They're working on it. Okay.
Yeah, they're working. They've been working on it for the last 5 years. But I'm not picking.
Yes,
I'm not picking.
Well, they acquired a bunch of companies. So they're trying to figure out how to duct tape those together.
I am exactly, and I am not picking on Lone Wolf. I love Lone Wolf. You guys are awesome. And Broker Metrics could use a web app, and I know they're working on it.
They're working on it.
Let's make that a little better. But basically, what Brandon's talking about is important. And imagine, for all of us listening, you might go, "Well, I don't recruit realtors. What do I care?" Well, maybe you're looking for a team member. Maybe you're looking for people to partner with. Maybe you're looking for to see what agents in your area are doing, because you might go, I want to sort of be more like them. I'm going to follow their activity. I want to see how they. And Corded is really perfect for that. It's not cheap, but it's amazing for somebody like me who I can really get as granular as, like, I would know all of Brandon's activity every single day. I get notified in real time when Brandon does something that shows up on the MLS or it changes on the MLS. And then I get to be the first one to call. And again, it's not going to work with everybody. Not everybody wants that kind of recognition, but a lot of people don't get any recognition from their brokerage. They don't get a lot of like attaboy calls. And I want to be the attaboy person because it's easy. And I like to be the attaboy person. It's easy to congratulate somebody on something. And I think realtors often miss this opportunity with their clients to create these attaboy moments. And it's not like you're just constantly being a cheerleader for your clients, but just knowing what's going on in their lives is immensely it's immensely important, because it demonstrates care and conscientiousness, and just, hey, I know you, or I know this thing about you, and I'm making an effort to say, yeah, look, if you ever need to buy or sell a home, yeah, I'm your guy. But I just wanted to call and say, good job on that thing, or you're an inspiration to me, or whatever. And that's the part I think realtors could, if you're ever struggling for a reason to call somebody, look for some of those things. Maybe on Facebook, they went on a vacation and they're starting to say, hey, I saw you went to Cabo. Let's talk
that is
about
exactly my workflow, by the way. So I'll have my CRM up. I've got LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and I try to find something that they've done. And that's what I want to talk to them about. And they're like, oh, wow, glad you're paying attention. They're like they're impressed, because not a lot of people do that. But I'm going to have to keep that company in mind. So the next time my name comes across someone's desk and they call me, I can say, hey, have you heard of this tool? And I like spinning it on them.
If yeah. And
a lot of recruiting calls.
A lot of, oh, boy. Have you ever had a good recruiting call? I'm always curious. What do the good ones sound like?
I think you've already kind of hit on it. Is that they're authentic and that they're trying to congratulate you or get to know you, and they don't start off with, I'm calling up on behalf of, or like right away, like why this would be better, this opportunity. And the persistence too. Like I'll never say no. Like, I'm not rude to people. Like,
sure,
I'm just upfront with them, like, hey, I'm happy where I'm at, but like, if you want to call me again. And then when they do, I'm like, oh, I gave you permission to call me again. So like I will congratulate them on their tenacity here. I was like, hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. You said you'd call and you did. So I'm still happy where I'm at, but now like you're top of mind for me. So if I do move, like sure, I'll give you a call. Why not?
Well, I think what we're talking about is this move from being sales focused, which is, can I have your business? I want your business. Can I have your business? I want to be your realtor. I want to be your, whatever. I want you to join my brokerage. To, hey, Brandon, I have something that I thought would be of value to you. Or I noticed you did this thing and I just wanted to say, keep it up. And then just playing the waiting game till one day, if Brandon eventually goes, Remax is changing, it's not really meeting my needs anymore, he's going to make that decision. I am not
Mhm.
going to be able to convince him otherwise. I mean, maybe, but probably not. He's a pretty smart guy. He makes his own decisions. And the idea of this, I think, is can be translated over to what realtors do with their clients is, be the person that's immersed in their life to some degree, so that when they are ready, you don't have to ask. They're just like, well, of course, that's I'm going with DJ.
Mhm.
And he's the one that puts in the most effort, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. It was just anything you can do to provide value to them and stay top of mind. It's one person I talked to was like, "Well, you know, I haven't talked to them in ages. I don't know what I would say." And I was like, "Okay, well, if you're telling me that about them, what do you think they think about you? Like when the time comes to buy or sell, like they're not going to call you because the feeling is mutual, and who knows like who's come into their life since then." And so there's no worse feeling than driving down the road and seeing a listing, a sign on one of your past clients' listings, or seeing that post on Facebook, like we just moved. You're like, what? What? I didn't even know you didn't call. Like,
right.
like it's
Yeah,
just like, oh, it hurts so bad. So just trying
I
to avoid that at all costs.
absolutely. And everyone's had if you've been in the business for more than 5 years, you've had this experience, and it's not a fun one, and it's humbling. And it
Yes,
also
but then they're
happens.
dead to me. I write
What's
them
that?
off. I put them on a list. I just say they're dead to me, and I literally,
Ah,
this is a real list. It exists. My
I
wife
love this.
maintains it for me. She
So
will back me
you,
up
you
here.
put it away, it goes somewhere else, and that way you don't have to
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about it. It's
Anytime, like if I
smart.
have a friend and like we're close and they don't use me, I'm like, hey, not cool. I go on the list, and then they don't get invited to stuff anymore.
I love
I
it.
am that way.
Well, if you were putting in tremendous effort and
Yeah,
they weren't reciprocal, then yeah, then it's not
yeah.
much of a
Like,
friendship. Yeah,
and we do a lot. So we do multiple client events per year. And obviously they're open to anyone. So like you don't
sure.
necessarily have to be a past client, but like there's kind of an expectation that if you're showing up and hey, you won the TV last year, that hey, maybe you should call your pal Brandon before you move. But
Yeah,
doesn't always happen. I know it's
sure.
a part of the business, but it stings.
It does, and everyone can relate to that. I think that really the goal is, of course, to minimize the number of times that happens, obviously,
Mhm.
and the way that you do that is through activity.
Yeah.
The agent just has to do as much outreach as they can, care calls, care whatever, caring about the client, and then just letting them know that
Yeah.
that yeah.
I think agents are missing a lot more business than they realize. I just don't see it. So once
Yeah,
you
let's
open
talk
their
about that.
eyes to that, then they're like, whoa. When they spend all their time, chasing shiny objects and worrying about leads. And meanwhile, like their neighbor down the street is using another agent. Their friend that they went, known they played pickleball with for months, all of a
Yeah.
sudden is moving. It's like, well, it'd be a lot easier to just have those conversations with people that you actually know and like, and
Right.
hopefully get along with, than having to chase leads all day. So
I've also heard too that sometimes people who are closest to a realtor who don't end up using them, when if the realtor says, "Hey, how come you didn't use me?" Um, I've heard this many times from people. They say, "Well, I just thought you were too busy. I didn't want to bother you," and that's its own problem that you
mhm.
probably wouldn't even expect.
I
And
have experienced that actually. It was the perception from the type of posts. So now I really have to make sure that people know that like I don't just sell new construction. I sell other homes too, and I am available. And a lot of it is just like some of it's just outrage, but then also like just saying on your page, like I'm here for you. It's how you word things. Always asking for the business.
What do you do in between sales to stay maybe not top of mind, but at least they're seeing your name occasionally from time to time or hearing your voice? What are some of the ways? Because people are buying and selling, like you said, maybe every 10 years or so.
Mhm.
And that's a long time to there's a lot of there's a lot of time there to lose a client, a
Yeah,
past client, just because of time. What are you guys doing to keep them
yeah,
engaged?
great question. So we have a very multi-pronged approach. It's not a one size fits all situation. So first, it starts with categorizing people in our database. Some are worth more than others. We do A, B, C's. We've got
Sure.
the raving fans, the past clients, that type of thing. So segmentation leads to like what types of follow up they receive. But everybody's going to be on a monthly e-newsletter and a physical mailing newsletter, and those are both full custom. And so we kind of use that as evidence of success, kind of highlight what we're doing, market trends, and generic, interesting things that people like, and more than just your canned type thing. And so it's personalized to us. There's going to be some tech in there, and people tend to like that. Then we got the social media. So they're seeing that on all the platforms very regularly. So if they ever log into there, they're going to know that, like, I sell real estate, new construction, tech. That's me. So we got that. Everybody's getting a quarterly phone call at minimum. We'll do like personalized like text, or might be. I don't do handwritten notes. My handwriting's terrible. I should have been a doctor. But we do that, and then events. We do 2 events a year, and so the nice thing with the events is that it's really just an excuse to reach out to people. And so if it costs $50 per person, even the people that didn't show up are getting impacted by that, because I called them and said, "Hey, I'm doing this cool thing. You want to go?" And then like they see the thing happen, they get to follow up. Oh, hey, we missed you. And then for the people that do go, obviously we have the invitation, we have the FaceTime with them when we see them in person, and then we have the follow up afterwards, thanking them. And it's really been a great way to just stay, in contact with people for like a decade. That
It's
way.
it's it's brilliant because I liked what I heard, although you didn't explicitly say it, but this is what I heard. We talked about putting on an event, having a number of registrants, people who we just had a summit last week, an in-person summit. We do it for our brokers, or I'm sorry, everyone in Illinois is a broker, so we just call them, it's like for our realtors,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and then I also invited a bunch of prospective KL agents, and about you know 80 of them said they were coming, and 30 of them showed up, and that's fine.
Mhm.
And I could have gone, oh man, those other 50 didn't show. And I realized, no, it doesn't matter whether they showed, because I could call them anyway and say, oh, I'm sorry, I missed you. I know you were busy. Hey, I still have some things for you. You're right.
Yeah,
It almost doesn't
exactly.
matter if they're there, great.
Yeah,
If they're not there, doesn't matter.
yeah. Especially if you can create excitement too. Do like the post video type thing, a sizzle. We want people to feel like they really missed out if they didn't go. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, like look at all the people there having such a good time. Like, oh, I guess I got to make the next one. And it's when you consistently do things that people start to just expect it. They're like, well, are you going to do the boat cruise again next year? I want to make sure I'm on the boat cruise. What day are you going to do that? I want to schedule around that. I'm like, yes, perfect. And they're like, all right, well, the only reason we can do the boat cruise every year is because of the referrals. And so I start like calling people out on the boat, like with the microphone, like John over here gave me 3 referrals this year. And so like all these drinks that we're drinking now, that's because John supported our business. So
I
if you
love
want to
that.
support our business too, we can keep doing this. Or if you want to be on shore, not having a good time, well, you know,
Yeah.
don't spread the good word. And
Yeah.
people really get it. Like it takes a little bit at first, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's
Sure.
right. Like this wasn't free. I need to give him referrals."
Well, here's what's great about that. You're not even peeling back the curtain. There is no curtain. You're like, this is how we do things. This is how
Yeah,
we
yeah,
pay for it. It's honest, it's authentic, and it's true. So it's one of those things that I don't think most people are willing to sort of say, like, how
yeah.
again, they're not really, they're just wanting to have a good time, and wanting to put on a good party. and you're like, hey, by the way, guys, the way we're able to do this is because of your referral. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please keep them coming because we want to keep doing this. And even just saying that, they're like, all right, okay, cool. That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
logical and it's reasonable. It's absolutely reasonable.
And
Um,
the other trick we learned too is, well, a couple of things here. One, you don't have to spend a ton of money. If you're broke, like you can just invite people over for dinner. You can do like a barbecue, whatever. That's fine. I've done like suites at like a sporting event, and it's cost so much money, and then someone no shows, and that's like, oh man, that was $200. And so like, there's very diminishing returns on these things. So it's more about, you know, impact and being as inclusive as possible. The other part of it is I've started encouraging people to bring guests, like invite a friend, and then like, oh, but you know, we need to have a head count for food. So if your friend could just go ahead and register, so we have their email, we know they're coming, that'd be great. But then like at these events, I'm like, I know who was my client and who wasn't, so I can see the people that weren't, and I go and introduce myself, and they all will always say like, oh, my agent, you know, I got this stupid cutting board or something that they definitely didn't want, and they laugh about it. And I'm like, oh, that's a pretty common gift. Like
yeah.
for us, we like to do these events because like I think it's more fun. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. Like we're definitely going to use you next time.
Yeah.
And it's worked. So
I love that. Okay, I want to ask you a recruiting question. And for everyone who's going, I don't recruit realtors, I promise this will absolutely apply to your business. So Brandon and his father are two of the top agents in Minneapolis. I know a few of the bigger players in that space, and Brandon and his father are definitely in that space. So I know you get recruiting calls. So how I'm wanting the audience to think about this is, that big listing that you really want, that might be, being called on by four different realtors, four different listing presentations. Brandon is kind of the hot client that everyone's trying to get to leave Remax and go elsewhere. I am curious, has anyone ever been has any firm ever been disciplined enough to maintain a consistent, even though you're like, I'm happy at Remax, which is, again, would be like, I'm happy with my current agent. I don't need another agent right now. Has anyone ever gotten close to breaking through just repetition, or do most people just give up? Most recruiters are just one and done, because you were talking about the repetition being so important.
yeah, well, I feel like the churn in that industry is pretty high. So
Yeah.
I'm like a cockroach, and I've outlasted a lot of them. But there are certainly brokerages that do a good job that I would, if something changed tomorrow, like
Sure.
I would call them like, and for that reason that you mentioned, is that they've been consistent and respectful in their outreach. There's definitely been some people that'll call, or they hire somebody to call, and it's just very much like you don't feel they're not authentic, right? Like,
Right.
oh, your name came across my desk. Oh, I'm so excited. It was like, oh yeah, uh-huh. Like, tell me what was the address of that
Right.
listing?
Now,
Like
challenge him a
sort
little.
of thing. Whereas like people that like know that I'm a nerd ask about that, like lead with these types of things, or knew that I spoke at an event, like, oh wow, that was cool. Um, that kind of sticks with me. And a lot of it's a culture type thing too. So
Yeah.
you know,
No,
there's definitely there's a couple of companies out there that I would certainly interview with if we weren't happy. But as of right now, pretty content. So
right. And the best recruiters are going, that's okay. I'm going to just keep dripping on Brandon until hopefully one day he is starting to look elsewhere. And again, you sort of just, my dad taught me this in sales. He's not a salesy person at all. He said, he's in a different industry, but he would say, if your guy ever really screws up, I'd love the opportunity to
Mhm.
try. That's basically what he would say. And he
My
goes,
photographer got an in. I was using the same photographer forever, and this guy was just very polite. He said, "Well, hey, you know, if your guy's ever just busy and you want to give me a shot, like it's 20% off for your first order." And I was like, "Oh, cool, whatever." And then a couple months went by, and I was like, "Oh, I actually have a need." And then I was like, "Oh, you did such a great job." And then you know, I got more listings. And I'm like, well, why don't we give him another shot? And then now that's the only company I use. So there we
amazing.
go.
So repetition. And I wanted to ask you, sort of post NAR settlement. I don't want to talk about the settlement, but I want to talk about the sort of buying and selling experience with related to sort of where you see technology taking the consumer. So obviously Zillow came into the market early 2000s and basically said, "Hey, we can show all the properties or we can aggregate all of the properties in the country and show those to people, on a website." And that took a little bit of the pressure off the agent to then do those searches. Do you see the realtor, as technology continues to evolve, becoming more important, less important, the same to the consumer? Is it changing?
Yeah. So, like, as an agent, we've never really, in recent times, been the driver of search, right? Like, they have all their own options. You might have them set up on a search, but they're probably still like going elsewhere. Like, well, I found this one on Zillow. Well, it's sold subject to inspection, so it's not available. But thanks for sending that. So they've always been kind of just looky loos on their own. So I think that'll continue. One concern I have is that there might become a mindset across buyer consumers that it would be advantageous for them to go direct to the listing agent. And so having a system in place to receive these calls, I think, is important, whether it's like a call action type thing where they're getting a text response. So for your sign calls, I think sign calls are going to go up. I think the viability of buying leads on Zillow, that goes down because, like, there's no guarantee. Now we got to get them to sign a buyer rep. And like in our state, buyer rep has been common for a long time. A lot of people were just putting in zeros or like not taking it serious, but like we've had that instrument. So the transition for those of us that are professional has been pretty easy. But I think for some of them, it might be just a shock. Like, what do you mean I don't just automatically get this? And so there might be some struggles there, but that's okay. Savvy agents will roll with it and utilize technology in a way that enhances the customer experience and earns them more market share. And then the part-timers, maybe they're going to finally see their way out. But right behind them, there's going to be three more because we glamorize real estate on TV. And so make it look easy, and it'll just be a revolving door. I don't think we'll see a reduction in agent count, to be honest.
Well, there is definitely a flea going on. We have a holding company here for people that aren't actively practicing, and at the beginning of the year, I think we had 800 agents in it. Now we have 1,100 agents in it, and we don't normally grow that fast. So people are leaving, but people are coming to replace them.
Revolving door.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I think too, good agents seem to not have been as affected by the buyer agency agreement. This is, a pretty standard sort of idea that if, as an agent, you wanted your buyer to understand commissions, you would have probably used some version of that tool in the past to explain, hey, you're not technically cutting me a check, but here's how it all works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just having the consultation up front.
Yeah.
Bringing them into the office, talking about their goals and walking them through the process. Anyways, I actually have a hard stop here, so I've got to run.
All right, Brandon, thank you.
At my door.
I am grateful for you. On behalf of everyone, thank you, Brandon. We appreciate you. We will check out the links in the show notes. We'll get you all over. Brandon's got to go. Thank you, Brandon. We'll see everybody on the next episode. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Take care.
Thanks.